Good evening, everyone. Yang Yan Zhao back again. Tonight, we have an extra special guest, a man who knows the depths of space, the space between the atoms, and much, much more. And we'll have him on in just a second. But quick announcements for all of you. Empire of the Undying Sun. That is my campaign guide, compatible with Dungeons & Dragons 5th editions and 1st edition. The Kickstarter for that is starting on Wednesday at 4 p.m. And just to let everybody know, it's going to be a humdinger. We have the campaign guide, which goes from level 1 to 10. It is a horror campaign, over 100 new monsters. We've got deserts with wailing spirits. We've got jungles teeming with wildlife that will devour you, ancient ruins, a god who demands blood, sacrifices, and even new mechanics so you can play in your dreams. Will you encounter a boogeyman, or will you learn to be Freddy Krueger's? Somebody else's Freddy Krueger. That will be up to you. If you go to www.empireoftheundyingsun.com right now, still chance to get a VIP membership for $1. And that will get you the adventure module, Fairy Hill. In addition to the campaign guide, we also have 12 adventure modules that will be available during the campaign. And plus one for the VIP for a total of 13. Get it while you can. And to Michael Dale, yes, anyone who backed the campaign in any capacity last year. Last year we only had the 5e version. This year is second chance for the 5e, and we're releasing that 1e version. Anyone who backed it all last year, you are automatically the VIP level for this year because you backed my campaign. You're automatically a VIP. That's just how it works. So just some quick bookkeeping. Next month is October, Spook Month. Not only great for tabletop horror campaigns, but I also have a ton of guests coming in. We're going to be talking about different aspects of horror. Starting on Thursday, this Thursday, the 2nd, we have Von Klaus, writer of Monster MD, Terror in the Trenches. He is going to talk about writing horror for comic books. Next week, Tuesday on the 7th, Peter Samedi, publisher of Alterna Comics, he will be here. We're going to talk about folklore. How do they get started? What's the importance of folklore for a society? And we're talking about creepy folklore, Ichabod Crane and whatnot. Then on the 8th, we have 01 publishing author Jay Isherofini. He's going to talk to us about horror and UFOs, going from real life cases that seem to be horror to how you would adapt those into a fantastic horror for writing, for comics, for games. The next week, the 13th, Fabrizio Aiello, master artist and the author of the Horace H. Hoover series of comics. He will be coming on, and we're going to talk about horror in art. What makes great horror? Horror throughout the ages of art. It's going to be a doozy. Then on the 14th, I have Dundermoose. He will be coming back. We're going to talk about Appendix N, the stories that Gary Gygax et al. Used to create the original Dungeons & Dragons and horror. And we're going to see what holds up today, what should we recommend people look at, and what would we add to Appendix N. Then on the 16th, I know it's getting long, we have Kat Rocha, the Night Editor, also of 01 Publishing and an author and artist. She is coming by, and we're going to talk about cults. We're going to talk about witches and ancient religions and how they have influenced horror throughout the centuries, not the years, centuries, and even into millennia. Then on the 22nd, we have Victor Gorchev, and we're going to be talking about what's the difference between horror over here in North America and horror over in Europe. How are they different? How are they the same? And being that he is a master of modern fantasy gaming, we're going to talk about horror in modern gaming. We have on the 23rd, we've got Rob from Pulp Hummock Press, best known for his tabletop role-playing game, or adventure guide, I should say, Gods of the Forbidden North. We're going to talk about using horror in tabletop role-playing games. On the 29th, we have Doomsword Deathmatch. He will be by. He is doing sort of a rewrite or revamp of a lot of the OD&D, AD&D 1E monster stat blocks. He has a theory that the arcane High Gygaxian language can make it a little tough to run. So we're going to go over how to run monsters in tabletop role-playing games for the greatest effect. And at midnight on the 30th, or 12 a.m. on the 31st, Halloween itself, we've got an all-star crew coming together, and we are going to be talking our top 10 H.P. Lovecraft stories. And keep an ear out. We will probably have more guests. And now that you are all famously bored, but there seems to be a number of you here, let's bring on the man of the hour. Much like Voltron, he combines with his partner to create a great, gigantic writing force. A man who knows all the secrets of sci-fi. A man who is doing his best to bring in the world of indie publishing to tabletop role-playing. Ben Gibson. How's it going?
Hey, that was a heck of an intro. Thanks, man.
Well, thanks for coming. It took a little while to get together. There's a little bit of a miscommunication, but we got it. We are here
got it there
tonight and live.
Yeah, you have one heck of a schedule coming up. That is going to be an intense October.
Well, I've got a shill for a campaign, so yeah. When you're running Kickstarters, you kind of have to take that time. You got to tell the wife, hey, you're not going to see me till November, but I'll totally be there for Thanksgiving. So I guess my first question is, you are known as a author, a book, a non-role-playing, a very linear author experience as a sci-fi author. What is it about sci-fi specifically that sort of drags you in? What's the siren song of sci-fi for you?
All right, so when we're discussing bona fides, I usually talk publisher, because all my published work so far is on the TTRPG side.
Okay.
I've been publishing TTRPG stuff for almost 9 years now. I've been under the Cold Light Press label. I write adventures, and that's my sci-fi adventure writing is one of the things we've been talking about, because we do that. I also write with my wife. If you see the BK, I'm Ben, she's Karen. So we write together. We co-write most of what we do. And my most recent, so often, we write, one person has one draft, then we toss it back and forth. Most recently, we polished off I guess we'll call it sci-fi. It's going to be Oak Ridge, which is going to be set in it's in the 2076 America competition for Arc Press. So it's near future. But we also are working on space opera stuff too, which has kind of been inspired by a lot of our gaming. I love fantasy too. Don't get me wrong. We're also going to be publishing fantasy. But we're excited to do some space opera as well. Space opera / mill sci-fi.
Very cool. Yeah, and so what is about that genre that really kind of gets you? You could be writing anything. You could be writing fantasy, you could be writing teenage romance. Like, what is it about the sci-fi that really draws you in?
So teenage romance. It's not really with our styles. We like adventure. The reason why fantasy is the only other one that we kind of write with interest is because we do love adventure stories. We love imagination and speculation. But sci-fi, I think, kind of does the best. It's the place to, if you're doing. So the thing is, if you're doing space opera, then you're doing some far future stuff. You're doing, you don't go deep into the science, but you need to at least have the right science feel. It needs to be plausible.
Yeah.
That kind of is the buy-in. And then you just kind of speculate and learn about new worlds. Maybe for the background, I subcontract right now for NASA. I am I have degrees in physics as well as electrical engineering. My wife Karen has a chemistry degree, so we are science people. Like, we've always been science people. We just love nerding out about that sort of thing. My default is actually to read. I love reading white papers. I love reading new discovery stuff. I love pushing that kind of thing. And I guess if you want to talk about professional writing, I've been writing tech manuals and requirements documents and everything else in that line for a long, long time. So I'm very comfortable writing on the technical side, and that, sci-fi just sort of evolves in that way.
Very cool. So I kind of have a question about. Let's see if I get that. It's working. Sorry, I should have adjusted my camera before we started. So I have a question about when you're writing in a genre, you sort of have to either obey the mores or the precepts of the genre, or you have to break it in a very specific way. And I'm kind of wondering, when you're dealing with like fantasy situations, we always, much like A Shadow from Mordor, Tolkien's work always lords over us, and people will always sort of, like, if you want to have elves in yours, it's very hard to have them be different from what Tolkien did, unless you want to like totally break it, and totally go opposite, which can seem jarring for people. Do you find that to be the case with sci-fi, especially with stuff like Star Trek and Star Wars, which I know it's kind of debatable whether or not that's sci-fi, but like if you're going to do a space opera and they have some sort of propulsion device that isn't warp drive, do you feel like you sort of have to use some of these conventions, or do you feel like, nah, I can break out and do whatever?
Well, you have to. So everything that you put out that's speculative is kind of going to be part of your audience buy-in.
Mhm.
You basically get only so much coin there. For everything you have to have a buy-in. If your one thing is FTL, like faster than light travel, then that can be the one thing. You can make everything else be real science, but then you can also do, Stargate jumps. Like, everything else is that way. The benefit of sci-fi genre is a lot of those have built-in assumptions.
Yeah.
Like Star Trek, if you're doing a Star Trek style thing, then you kind of expect, warp drives are a given, free energy is a given, post-scarcity society is a given, a bunch of weird aliens that you can talk to and understand and comprehend, and really the only difference is they have forehead bridges. Like, that's kind of part of the givens. So you have some freebies, basically, if you're doing something in the genre. You have freebies if you're doing a Star Wars kind of thing. You have weirdo aliens, you have not too much physics you have to worry about. Like, swords are appropriate with laser pistols. That's a mix, it's a Buck Rogers-y kind of mix, and you get that for free. Whereas if you're doing hard sci-fi, you often have a gimme, or like one or two, like The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
Note that The Expanse, it not to spoil it for anybody, but it slowly gets weirder over time. But it's very careful to only start with a very basic, like, Elon Musk succeeds and there's better fusion drives. That's it. That's the start. Yeah. They start very slow and then they build on that. But every book you only have to have one gimme. because if you're not playing with a pre-existing genre, or if you're not playing with a pre-existing set of tropes, then you're going to have to sell each one of it for your audience. So that's kind of the value of tropes, but that's also what kind of constrains you. Because if you do a Star Wars type story, but you had a bunch of Star Trek crew in there, that's a very different kind of a story. It's weird to have an Enterprise, a USS Enterprise, flying around in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm very curious about this space opera. For me, my favorite cartoon growing up was called Robotech, which is like one of the grand space operas. If anyone wants to go check that out from the 80s. But what were your influences for space opera?
Man, so it's going to be a lot more hard than a lot of like Buck Rogers-y, like Masters of the Universe-y, which is kind of debatable, Star Wars-y stuff. But a lot of space opera is about that operatic thing. It's about having big stories, a big villain to face, like Asimov's Foundation series, even though it has a little bit more of a hard and firm setting for a lot of the universe, it has big villains, it has a big long plan. And so it does kind of have the space opera feel, even though it's a little more hard sci-fi. And we're kind of mixing that with, so we're going to call that series The Flight of the Fox. We've already done some short stories in that. And so the first one will be The Flight of the Fox, then will be The Hunt of the Fox, then will be The Fight of the Fox. And the Mill Sci-Fi twist is it's a reservist logistics crew who are, the entire rest of the fleet's wiped out. They have the secret location of the big bad and a bunch of jump points. And so they are going to go jumping that way with the rebel fleet chasing them. And they have to, seek out strange new worlds. They have to make alliances as they go running through. They're always running away from the rebel fleet. So there's that kind of operatic thing. So even though I'm doing FTL, we're doing jump points, hyperspace kind of stuff. So even though that's kind of like, that's the gimme you have, that's the kind of freebie that everybody gets, everything else is going to be well, so how does a universe work? It's not going to be hyper cosmopolitan. It's going to be mostly human, although not always. But a lot of it's that story, that single overriding operatic story, which is just a crew on the run from a bunch of rebels and a big villain at the end. So that's kind of what I think of for space opera when I'm looking at that.
Very cool. And out of curiosity, do you have any sort of time frame for when you think you might be ready to start showing that around?
Yeah. So we are. My wife and I write pretty fast. We are currently working on a fantasy series. The first novel we are like listening for the second revision feedback. So the first one's there. The second one we have about halfway written, and the third is all plotted out. We can usually polish off a novel in about 4 months working together. Wow. So we do that. And then The Flight of the Fox, like I said, we've been already working short stories because we like side stories. We like, things that make sense in a universe.
Yeah.
And we've already been doing the plotting on that and the planning. So we're probably looking at that. That would probably be something that would be coming out in 28 or 29. We're looking long for the logistics. If we work for a publisher and we work with a publisher, we're happy to. We're also happy to do it independent. It's kind of just who has the right mixture of people we like to work with. Our fantasy series, if you don't mind talking about that, is the first book. It's set in a kind of a Greek-themed world. So it is fantasy. I mean, it's fantasy with magic. Mm-hmm. It deals with shepherds as the magicians who can inspire passions in people and commune with the elements by feeding them passions. So it's not a Sandersonian like. So Brandon Sanderson actually is qualified as sci-fi to me because all of his magic is X does Y, Y does Z, that kind of thing. This magic is a little more mystical in most of what we write for the fantasy side. But the first book, Shepherd, is going to be coming out next year. We're actually looking at maybe in the spring, maybe in the summer, probably launching along the same time as the Odyssey, just so everybody's thinking Greek at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of
that's smart.
Yeah, that's the thought at least. And I love playing with Greek style fantasy because it's a little fresh compared to the Tolkienian Western European stuff, which I love. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, but But it's also not alien to most people around here. We all know what a minotaur is. We know what a
Yeah.
centaur is. We can get it. We can grok that. But Shepherd is there's three primary POVs there, and Shepherd first follows a slave girl who discovers she has shepherd powers, but it also deals with another slave who's captured in battle named Phylon, who's a very clever, conniving fellow, and a young man of the city, a young hoplite of the city, who is a powerful warrior, and it is a standard epic fantasy in that there's the fate of the entire known world in it. Like the first book is going to be set with saving the city. The next book after that is going to be saving the region, and then the last one's going to be saving the known world, as they kind of build up and they deal with ancient villains and long plots. A lot of that is my RPG side too. I love having that kind of setup and that kind of world building. If you follow me at Twitter at all, you'll sometimes see I'm not a accomplished cartographer, but I do love making maps. I love making stories based on maps, and so we already have the map set out for that. That's kind of one of the first things we ran into.
Nice.
So yeah, so we're excited about that. We're really excited about Shepherd right now. We're working on that pretty hard. And like I said, I worked on Oak Ridge, which is the Art Prize novel. I got that recently done, and we have that in. That's a competition, so that's been sent in, and the judgment starts on the 7th for that one. So that's kind of where we are for our current novel projects. We also have other novels written. We have about nine written right now, but some of it's about when the publication is right, and we won't have enough backlog to be able to publish them rapidly, because that seems to be the right way to do it. Just get them regularly out.
Yeah, I mean, there is, when you're in the self-publishing world, there's always a struggle between I need to take enough time to make it good, and I can't wait too long because people will forget who I am. So we got a couple questions from the chat here. PB asks, what defines a space opera?
Probably, so it probably is different for everyone. For me, doesn't have operatic focus, meaning is there some sort of like a single story that's told throughout the whole thing. Big characters, large characters. Could a fat woman sing the story for you? That's kind of my definition. And a fat woman could definitely sing the story.
That works for me. And Cyrus asks, has AI evolved within your sci-fi stories? Not as you using it as a tool, but how you foresee it in the future.
Honestly, it almost starts to feel like our AI visions have been a little too optimistic. As I've seen the LLMs advance, quote unquote advance, they are more and more lame in terms of practical generative stuff. They're useful tools for helping analysis. I'm a miserable Python coder, so I actually really appreciate LLMs when it comes to Python. But I mean, if you have them just write up straight code, then it's miserable. If you have them write up a story, it's miserable. They don't generate great, and they seem to be getting increasingly insane as they eat more and more AI content. So
yes, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because at first I thought like, okay, maybe it won't be so bad, until I saw something like 50% of ChatGPT's content comes from Reddit, and it was like, oh my god, this is terrible. This will kill us all.
Yeah,
it's worse than Wiki.
Yeah, nothing. Well, I think Wikipedia was something like 20-something% too. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I like having robots, and we have fun robots in a story because it's a good idea. But AI, or at least what we're calling AI now, LLMs, is not something that I'm holding much stock with for future tech. And part of that's because I'm an electrical engineer by first training, and I just know how much power and how much water it's taking to run every one of these like silly little things. Yeah. I mean, I honestly think that in 20 years, our kids are going to be, wait, you were using AIs for making cat memes? You were using AIs to make pictures? Like, that stuff's expensive. Like, there are practical applications. There's stuff like, military targeting. It's really useful for, there's definitely useful things for it, but I can't imagine, like, every single AI company is losing tons of money on it. And there's a lot of physics problems that I'm just not optimistic about solving, and just the physical hardware side. So I'm not a maximalist on that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And I think, the art that I've seen, like for example, as someone who publishes tabletop role playing games, since many people in the indie space are just doing everything themselves. If you can't draw, and you basically can do stick figures, yes, AI art is going to be an upgrade for you, but it's still not very good because the people who are using it in total, right? Like if you're using just like to just fix up a little something or another, or you take an image and you animate it with AI, that's a little different. But the people that I see just using it from scratch with Bing or Gemini or Grok or whatever, um, they don't really have a soul. And I think that they sort of have a use for, like, I use it for a lot of thumbnails, for when I'm doing videos, right? Because I don't have the time. It's not worth it to spend the time to do a nice art piece for that. But if you're doing something like you're published that people are going to pay money for, I think it's, as people are more used to AI art, I think it's going to be a harder and harder sell.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Actually, the only people I've seen some people, say that, like I've seen some people say AI is like AI art is completely worthless. I've seen some people get really good results out of it. The people who get really
Mhm.
good results out of it are artists,
Yes.
people who have actual talent and are using it as a tool to enhance what they're doing. Because if they're it's just like anything else. It's crappy at generative stuff. It's crappy at coming up with something themselves.
Yeah.
It's horribly. I mean, actually, we have found it useful for things like book covers.
Hmm.
It's great as it's great as something for us who are not talented. We love to run kind of stuff there and say, okay, this is kind of a mock-up. It's great to have a mock-up to give to an artist. Like
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
really useful use for it. But I have seen some really impressive work from people who are genuine, real deal artists who are artistically trained, who have
Yeah.
have a real background in it, and they can do amazing stuff with it. But it's only the ones who already are artists, who already do have, who can use it like a tool instead of using it to do all the work for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a real
Exactly.
difference there.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And it's like in writing, like if you were writing let's say a Dungeons and Dragons module, and you were like, okay, give me a list of all the monsters who live in a swampy environment that is subtropical, that is appropriate for levels like 6 to 8 players, and then it spits you a list of monsters, and like then you go and decide like, oh yeah, this, and I'll modify that. To me that seems like an okay use. Using it to filter through options quicker. But when you're like, okay, design me an encounter in a swamp, like, it's always going to be a little thin, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it. Thin. It is, for art, for code, for writing. It is pretty good, as you'd expect with something that's just sort of eaten everything. It's pretty good at producing a average result,
Yeah.
kind of like a nice. It'll work. It's if it's going to be generating something, it does something that's very average. Music too, like it
Yeah.
can do a kind of a meh. All right, it's okay synthwave kind of stuff, but it's not. Again, the people who do good stuff with it have musical talent and actually
Yeah.
are modifying things and working with it. The people who just say make a music, I don't want to listen to that. It just doesn't have any interest to me. When somebody spits out AI writing, it's it's weird. I don't actually know why, but for some reason I cannot read AI writing beyond like 3 sentences. I
Yeah.
start to drift. I don't know if it's something to do with my read speed. I don't know if it's something. It's intuitive. It's not. It's not. It's triggering some sort of moral objection. It's just I'm bored. I can't focus on
Yes.
the words.
Something just makes your eyes slide right across it.
Right.
I'm not sure what that is, but a lot of people I've heard say the same thing. So Tristan G33K asks, do your sci-fi settings include psychic or supernatural powers? What sort of origins or gimmies do you use to explain them?
Well, Tristan Geek, because he's using LeetSpeak, knows this because he's in my games. In the game I'm running, I run a Stars Without Number game, and in
Oh, nice.
there he's playing a psychic who psychics from that game it happens when they do jumps, when they do basically warp jumps. Their star drive, their drill, being exposed to that nth dimensional space kind of does something wrong to their brains, and it starts growing their minds, and they start to become psionic, and they give powers like that. I like that kind of thing. That's about the right level of explanation, I think, for a sci-fi psychic or supernatural thing. If we're doing, it can't be too explicitly supernatural. Religion is fine in sci-fi settings if it's built in. I mean, Warhammer's great, and in that case, Warhammer, a lot of magic is because it's magic and because there's demons.
Hmm.
But if you're doing a Star Trek style, then you need to have a reason for why your Vulcans are telepathic. There needs to be
Yeah.
an actual pathway explanation, like what is making the neurons fire. So a lot of that's again a kind of a genre thing, where it comes in there.
Um, so going back a little, you are working with your wife on fantasy novels. So my question is, how do you, when you're part of a writing duo like that, how do you make it work? Is it like you write something, then she looks it over and rewrites it, or you're like, I'm doing chapter 1, you're doing chapter 2, or you each write a different character, or how do you make that work?
So a good example, if you want to use one like our most recent sci-fi short story, the short story came in at right about 6,000 words. Pretty standard for short story. She wrote the first draft that was about 3,500 words, and there were big brackets that had insert action scene here. It had insert the space battle stuff here, and little questions for some stuff. Not that Karen's not able to write action too, but I'm strongest in the action. I'm best in the action writing. I'm best in a lot of the physical description. And then, so what I did then is I had that 3.5K, and I did rewrites there. I did rewrites on some of the prose and just merged it together. But I also wrote the stuff that she wasn't happiest writing, or she didn't have a vision for that particular scene, and then I filled that in. So I had all that, and then I tossed it back to her, and so she did a prose pass, and then she tossed it back to me, and I did one last prose pass, and then we were able to kind of say, "Hey, this is good." So what that means is we write very clean. Now I write clean anyway because of, again, I've been done a ton of tech writing for my sins in my life, but our process is always back and forth editing for Oak Ridge, because it is, dude, I have to tell you about the Oak Ridge. It is a weird out there story, like over the top. But so she was like, I think you need to write most of this first draft. And so I did a lot of that first draft for the novel. And then, we worked through, we tossed it back and forth. And of course, she wrote more stuff. She added scenes. She expanded stuff because I write very, very tight, and she expanded it. And a lot of things are like, the pacing is way too fast here. We need to slow this down. We need to add this. It helps that we have both of our names on it. So everything we write has, we both have ownership on it, and we feel very comfortable editing each other's stuff. We have a lot of the same influences. So for sci-fi, our favorite writer, period, I think, is Timothy Zahn. And everybody knows him for his Star Wars stuff, but we love his stuff. I love Timothy Zahn. He's most famous for Grand Admiral Thrawn and all the Star Wars, but he's written, hundreds of other novels, and it's all sci-fi stuff that we love. That's kind of our biggest influence, but we have a lot of the same authors we read. For fantasy, Lois McMaster Bujold is a huge one. In addition to the classics like Tolkien and Lewis. So we have a lot of the same influences, a lot of the same desires. And I guess I should say, we plot. So we are very much outline driven. And the way we start our novels is we sit down together. We have a seed of an idea. It's often Karen has had a dream, literally, because she often has a dream for that. And then she says, okay, so this is an idea for magic powers. What's this? And then I come in with historical things. So this is a place where we could do it, with what I know of history. This is kind of what would make sense for making it, this would make it interesting to have. And then, so what's the plot here? What's, how would this work? How would these magic things work? How would this star drive work? What, given our assumptions, how would it proceed? And we got to go back and forth. A lot of the times is, we'll have a basic plot and then Karen will come up with a list of problems. And so we have almost like a Socratic dialogue for our outlining process. So she has a long list of problems, and then we sit down and she quizzes me, and I start trying to figure out and answering problems. That's kind of our way of plotting things. That's our way of outlining. So that's kind of our method, if that kind of explains it for you.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people work with partners. But I have to say, as a married man, this sounds fraught with danger to me. So how do you handle it when you have disagreements? Is it like, all right, I'll give you this one, you give me the next one, or like rock, paper, scissors, or how do you handle that?
Well, so this is part of the reason why we don't write romance. We have an unusually low drama marriage. Both of us are very chill people when it comes to that. Both of us are very simpatico with a lot of our desires. So we don't write romance because we don't usually have a lot of experience with romantic troubles. I mean, we'll have occasional disagreements, but we're basically in alignment for our worldview, for our plans, And so for the novel stuff, a lot of the times, like I said, it's not, the disagreements aren't, this is wrong. It's more like, this didn't work for me, or this is a problem. How can we explain it better? There's a lot of yes and or no but kind of back and forth on that. And basically, I mean, if we're not having fun doing this, I mean, frankly, it'd be rather stupid to write novels if you're not having fun. Because I mean, unless you are Larry Correia, you're not doing this because you have to, because otherwise you're going to making less money. So we do this as a side job. We do this because we enjoy it. We do this because it's something we share together, and it's it's one of the hobbies we have together. We have a lot of hobbies. I mean, she actually plays in that game that Tristan's in. We play every single week. We play a sci-fi game online with some dear friends of ours that, oh gosh, we've known them for more than like 2 decades. Like, they've been good friends for a long, long time. I don't actually like playing online. I don't like running online, but this friend group has scattered to the four winds, and I really treasure them as friends. So they got grandfathered in. They're grandfathered in for the mode. But
I'm with you. I definitely prefer to play with people around a table. It's just a much better experience. But like you, I have a friend group that I played with in a D&D campaign for years, and I think pretty much all of us, except for the married couple, live in different states now. So if it weren't for Roll20, or now they got me trying out Draw Steel, if it weren't for those, we would never get together. So to me, I still don't know how it's going to shake out in the industry overall. But I think that this is one of the biggest, COVID sort of spurring this on more is sort of one of the biggest developments in tabletop role-playing games overall, in the last 50 years.
It's kind of interesting. COVID helped me play more at home because I got into the habit like pretty early on in COVID. I don't know why I hadn't done it before. We have little kids. We still have little kids. It's hard to play at night. It's very noisy and everything. We started playing out on the back porch.
Oh.
And so we live in northern Alabama. So back porch in the evening is viable for about 8 months to 9 months out of the year. So like it revolutionized my around the table physical like play, to be able to play at night. There's something wonderful about just playing out on the back porch at night, just having having us all like outdoors, feel, hearing the sounds of the bugs, hearing the sounds of just the night, seeing the stars, seeing the moon. It has been awesome to play outdoors. And so, we don't have to anymore. And sometimes we will go inside, and the kids are older now, so we can play inside. But the COVID time kind of inspired me to move the stuff outdoors. And that has actually been, that's revolutionized. It's so much more fun to play out back.
It's interesting you say that because I remember as a kid, I'd go to my grandma's house for a few weeks in the summer, and it wasn't tabletop role playing games, but she was born in the 30s, so and this is in Appalachia, so nobody had money for a TV. People would just go visit at night, and you would sit out on the porch and you play cards or a board game or something, and that's just what everybody did. And yeah, that was way better than playing inside. I definitely agree with you on that. Except for the wind, that could be a problem. But
Well, again, it has to be the right time of year. But
yeah,
hey, personally, I can recommend it to everybody. If you enjoy playing physically at all and you have a group, play outside. Like it is a revolutionary experience. Like it really does add so much when you're playing outdoors.
definitely. Uh, let's see. So it looks like you're in. You've got draw steel in your future too.
Oh boy.
It's okay.
Well, it's yes. We'll see that. Now with my throat currently damaged from the cold I had last week, I have a nice Matt Colville sound to my voice. So
Yeah, it's nice.
we'll see if we get that.
I'm gonna rename this stream for the ladies.
Oh yeah, for
For
both
all one of them
ladies
that
who are
watch this
watching. Yes.
channel, yeah. Excuse me. Um, so you have a site. Let me see if I can make that look a little better. Is that better? No, wait. Okay, hang on. There we go. Cold Light Press. It now. Excuse me. Cold Light is. Would you call it a blog? Would you call it a business site? How would you describe the site itself?
The site is a blog. It's definitely
Is it-
my
okay.
blog. I review the largest amount of stuff on there is reviews. I review game adventures. I do at least one a week, which is this call it Crapshoot Monday, where I literally just take a free or pay what you want adventure from itch.io
Mhm.
and just go. So I mean, that's like if you know the reputation, that's reputation is the lowest of the low for adventure design. So I just go on there. I look for I find random adventures that are entirely I have no idea who makes this or what the system is. I go take a look and I just evaluate it as an adventure. And the reason why I do that is a lot of these people are toiling obscurity. Most of the time it's bad, but every now and then I find a wonderful, beautiful gem. Like I find something that's just like, this is somebody who's putting it out there for free or pay what you want. This is somebody nobody has reviewed, nobody has taken a look at, but this person working in obscurity has actually made something really playable and really good. So that's kind of that's what I do for the Crapshoot Monday. And you have up here the adventure site contest. So I don't know if you've heard of the No Art Punk contest that we're running. Gosh, 6 years, 5 6
No,
years
no, I
ago.
don't know that one.
A review blogger named Prince of Nothing basically was getting irritated with the increasing number of art punk OSR adventures, which are basically stuff that was more, it was more flash over, more
Mhm.
sizzle than steak was a lot of the
Yeah.
art punk stuff. And so he started these contests that were basically, hey, you can only use stuff that is in the original player's handbook, the original monster manual, and don't use anything special. Don't use, you can only invent one new magic item, one new spell, and one new monster. And like show that you can use all the basics to
Mhm.
make an amazing adventure. And it worked really well. He ran those contests. I've actually appeared in all three of the compilations with my adventures. But what I noticed is the most valuable thing for people were not being included in the adventure. It wasn't even the exposure they got. The most valuable thing I saw was it inspired people to create, and then he would do reviews of all the adventures that were submitted.
Oh,
So he
nice.
would give feedback. You write adventures. There's nothing more valuable in the world than feedback. And
Yeah.
negative feedback, even though it's hard, if you can take it, negative feedback is better because you can improve if you have, everything that's said harshly can help. So I started running. Part of it is I just run a crap ton of games. I run a West Marches style game. Oh gosh, we're 6 years in. I run, weekly. So I need a lot of content, and I come up with it myself. I'm happy with that. But I love running some of the other stuff people make too. So I was like, let's start making adventure sites. They are small sites, 2 pages of text basically, and a map that can be scattered around a map, like a hex crawl or a city crawl, or a planet crawl, some place where you just bump into this little site that has its own sort of self-contained adventure. So it's a dungeon. It's something similar to what the One Page Dungeon did before it became an art contest. Because One Page Dungeon has become more and more concerned with the art, which are gorgeous. Like One Page Dungeon now produces beautiful things that are completely unusable for me as somebody who wants to actually play it. So the focus for the Adventure Site contest has always been playable content. I want to have people make things that are fun, that can play, that you can sit down with 5 semi-drunk people around the table. They can have a good time. They can, explore an area. They can look over physical. They can play basic D&D, although I have other OSR systems. And then try to figure it out. Try to see how you can make a little story, a self-contained story, in these fairly small areas. And I've got several of friends in the blogosphere, the OSR blogosphere, and one booktuber, Owen Edwards, actually, who joined me as a panel of judges. So I'm kind of I'm the first judge because I'm the host.
Mm-hmm.
But I have other judges, so we all vote on the inclusion, and the top 8 are all released in a free compilation at the end. And then the top 2, in addition to the glory they get for being crowned king and prince of the Adventure Site contest, they also get adventure from our sponsor Maurix, who's he's a adventure writer and a adventure merchant himself. So he sponsors it, and that's kind of the fun. But a lot of the fun is the feedback. All the judges do not review all the adventures. Owen will, but he does kind of a YouTube review. There's a couple other guys who will do extensively. Some people just can't do all that because when you have that many adventures, you can't do it. But I always make the commitment, at least you will get a full review from me. So every single adventure that gets put in, I give a full review. I take a look at it. I try to give positive and negative in all cases. Even if it isn't good enough to include, people are putting this in for a free site. People are doing this because they like the community, because they want feedback. I assume good faith, and so far everybody has been, well, most everybody. There was one troll last time, but most people have been putting it in for good faith. And so you just do what you can to review it, and I've loved it. One thing I do is I always publish it Creative Commons attribution, but the legal lit there is every author has right to their own work. Because I'm not collecting money for this. Neither are they, because royalty splits are hard. But what I also do is every author has the right to their own work. So if they submit to the Adventure Site contest, they want to take my feedback and then release their own adventure expanded, they can. And what's been really encouraging is I've had a lot of people who've released modules where they've expanded their Adventure Site, and that's great. A lot of people who have never had the winner for Adventure Site 2. So last year's Adventure Site contest, he had never put pen to paper about writing anything. He had just been running for a long time. He was just a guy toiling in complete, Matthew Lake was his name. He was just a guy toiling in complete obscurity, playing a BX game every 2 weeks with his buddies. That was it. But he made an incredibly beautiful, genuinely beautiful Adventure Site that it was the tower in the lake. So it was a decaying wizard's tower that was half submerged and had magic traps. It had ups and downs. It had a story that you could discover. It had treasure that was great. It had traps that were wonderful. It was just a wonderful work of just incredible creative, just vigor and enthusiasm. And this guy had never done it before. And he got, I once again emphasize the Adventure Site contest is not an art contest. So I'm not going to judge the art. But he had a friend, one of his players, she made wonderful art for it, like beautiful sketches of what's a Mer owlbear. which
Oh,
is like half bear, half orca, like gorgeous thing. And cauldron crabs, like hermit crabs that wear
hmm.
cauldrons and that sort of thing. Incredible artist. Um, she had never done it before. Now both of them are releasing stuff. Like now most of them are publishing their own stuff. It's really
Nice.
exciting because they just never thought they were doing it. And these people have insane talent. So it's been really, really exciting to be able to, find that to just encourage people to, hey, create something and maybe you'll like it. And if it's not good, then it'll be better next time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, we were talking a little bit backstage before the show. For me, getting feedback is tough. Because if you're doing, if you want feedback from randos, people you just met, blind testers, if you will, it can be tough because a lot of people don't want to say negative things to your face, even when they need to. And the same token, you could have your friends do it, but do your friends want to hurt your feelings? In in my first test group for Empire of the Undying Sun, I had friends, and there's one friend who, like, after DMing for him, I'm now like 85% sure he's autistic because he would just absolutely let me have it. He would want to rage quit over. Um, like I had a wizard, and he has his title is Grand Magus and Master Thaumaturgist of the Empire of the Undying Sun. And originally I had written in there, but his friends call him Tim, just as a Monty Python joke. And he tore me, like he almost quit the campaign because he's like, no, this is a horror campaign. It's making it silly and this and that. You know what? He was right. So I renamed him. He still has the same title. His name is Thaddeus Ignatus Macari. So if you look at the initials, it's still there, but it's not poking you in the eye anymore. And the game I think is better for that sort of thing. But this to me sounds fantastic. Especially there's a lot of people who like you're saying with that guy, don't necessarily have the nerve to get it started, or they think like, oh, well, I can't do this. It's not my talent. No. Just do something, get some feedback, make it better. That's all you need.
No, and it's been wonderful to see like people reacting to the feedback and people incorporating feedback and writing their own stuff. It's been awesome to see people exciting. But I'm also kind of, like I said, I'll confess I'm greedy because I run weekly or more. I run about 10 sessions a month.
Wow.
I have a lot of need, and I run a big hex crawl in my default campaign. I need adventure sites. So I also am grateful for this. As a community resource, it's great to be able to have something that just fits perfectly in. I was like, there's a dragon here. I've rolled up. I know there's dragons in this area. I'm going to need a red dragon lair. I know just the thing. Somebody wrote up a dragon like adventure site. I have this poked in here. When they encounter it, it's going to be awesome. Because there's also barbarians who go into a rage because they grow ghost peppers.
Yeah.
And it's, that's great loot too. that can integrate with other things in the world. So they'll inspire stuff. So, I love giving the feedback. The biggest reward has been seeing people just enjoy getting the feedback, enjoy getting published. That's been the biggest thing. But the secondary thing, the thing I also really like is it's been really like, I've really enjoyed the content. I've really enjoyed the adventures people have come up with. I've really enjoyed that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. If you're going to put in the effort, you might as well get something for it. But yeah, no, I totally agree. So right now is number 3.
So number 3 starts November 1st. And it's going to run for 2 months. As I'm saying in that post, I don't want people to overwrite. I don't want, you can polish and polish and polish and polish. But for every product, there comes a point at which you have to shoot the engineers and ship.
Yeah.
So I would really rather not people focus too much on just making every little bit perfect. We're not gonna ding you if you have a grammar error. We're not gonna. That scan wasn't exactly perfect, but we have it open for 2 months. So it's done on January 1st, midnight of January 1st of 2026 is when we close the submission. So it's November through January 1st. We love, like, people are willing to submit. We're going to do one submission per person. Somebody submitted multiple times last time, and it was just like, I'm like, dude, you're working a little too hard. I love the enthusiasm, and he had good stuff, but I'm like, just kind of work on one, try to figure out one. And we, since we are reviewing everything, we're going to try to give kind of an evaluation of the style, kind of seeing what some problems are and seeing what's good, what's working. And so we have that 2-month submission window. But again, it's not hard. You can you can draw up a map. Again, it's not an art contest. There are people who have submitted beautiful, gorgeous maps, like unbelievably beautiful maps, that lost to somebody who put something on graph paper. They probably swiped from work and scanned it with their phone. When we publish that, we're probably going to want to clean it up, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not doing an art contest here. What's important, if you are making that map, though, I would like to see. I'm much more concerned with the content. Do the rooms flow together? Are there cool reasons to be here? Is this going to be fun in play? All of us judges are very, very focused on make something that is fun to do and play, not something that just looks pretty, not something that just you read it and go, that's nice. Paizo and Watsi have that marker cornered. We're not going to fight them. They write. Paizo did a study, something like 95% of their customer base never play. They just buy their modules to read and to enjoy the reading. That's great for them. That's not what the Adventure Site Contest is. The Adventure Site Contest is to do something so people are going to be running around the table, enjoying, like, buddy time, or on a VTT, like just having a good time with friends and playing some good classic gaming. That's kind of been the focus. So that's why we're having it open just for the 2-month period. And like I said, again, it's just 2 pages, and then a map or maps if you want. And there's some people who are fancy and they give like a nice cover page or a back page. That's fine. That's not going to hurt you. But I'm going to format all of that. If you win anyway, I'm going to format all of that for the compilation, so you don't have to worry about that.
Nice. And do you have requirements, like is there a specific system that they're writing for? Is there a page limit? What sort of requirements should people be looking at?
Yeah. So like I said, the page limit is 2 pages. So you want to have it pretty tight. And part of the reason is because we're not looking for a big adventure module. We're looking for something that's a single session. And then the map is another 1,000 words because a picture is worth that. Systems, I have a list of systems. It's basically AD&D, OD&D, BX, and a lot of the retro clones, like OSRE kind of retro clones that are real games. So Axe is in, but Morkborg is not in, because Morkborg, you have to do a lot of work to make that into a real system that supports any kind of long-term play. That's not a hate on people who enjoy Morkborg, but what I find is if you write for a fuller system, and if you write for kind of a common lingua franca, then it's really easy to adapt. You can adapt something that's written for BX into anything. You can't. It's really, really hard to adapt something that is written that has the design of OSR compatible or system agnostic. I actually have a real problem with that, because that is actually harder to adapt than something that is written for a completely different system. But I know if somebody writes something for AD&D, I'm not running AD&D in my home game. I'm running my own weird hack, which is what most long-term DMs are. But I know AD&D. I know the assumptions. I know the math. I know the treasure math. I know all the core. It's really easy for me to adapt an AD&D module to my own game. It's really easy to adapt BX. It's really easy to adapt that kind of thing. So we're not like, you don't have to have one particular TTRPG system, but it does have to be for a system, because otherwise, it's all about usability. And if you have it system agnostic, it's not usable.
Yeah, that's true. So out of curiosity, do you ever have like gaming sessions just to test these? Like you say, oh, here's the 10 best. Let me get some sessions just to test these 10.
No. So like I do when I'm doing review, I'm kind of I don't do star ratings for these reviews, but I do have a ranking in my own spreadsheet. All of us judges do. If I have it useful in my if however I say I could use this in my game, or I will have use for this, it is going to go up because that's automatically something usable. That's a good sign. I always enter my own. My own last year tied. Like my own last year was like there was a tie for we had 9 top adventures instead of 8. I just got rid of mine because I can publish myself. I publish my own stuff. So I just got rid of mine, but I always write my own adventure site because I need it. Because again, I play my own game. I have my own stuff. It's always practically going to be something I need. So playtesting is never an issue for my own writing stuff. But we were kind of talking before in the green room. I do recommend anybody playtest if they can. If they can whip together a group, that's great. If they can't and they just want to solo play, that's also, that really helps with a lot of your assumptions. But playtesting is a really good deal. Basically, I will continue running this site. It's a lot of work, but I'll continue running this contest as long as it's leading to people playing the game more. The second I'm seeing people not be playing more, like if it's just I'm writing this up and not playing, then that's it. Like I don't care about stuff that isn't going to get played. So I really want people to write stuff that they're excited about putting on a table and playing with their friends.
So Tristan says, yeah, Morkborg taught me some fun things, but I haven't touched it since getting Shadowdark. Shadowdark's a system I need to check out, but I haven't had the time. Last year when I was promoting Empire of the Undying Sun, everyone's like, so you're trying to be Shadowdark? And I was like, what's Shadowdark? So it was an interesting time.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So one of the other reviews I do on my blog there, you'll see a few there tagged system thinking, where I'll do a deep dive review of a system. I did Shadowdark last year, kind of a deep dive review of it. Some Shadowdark fans were mad at me because I didn't have it as the best thing ever. But what I did do, actually, what I did say about it is it looks like a godsend. Like it looks like an amazing thing for suffering 5e GMs who it looks like it was made from like manna from heaven to the suffering 5e GM who has it's like there's a long list of complaints that 5e GMs have, and Shadowdark looks like it is like a perfect, beautiful panacea to ease their agony. So for what it is, it's really good. I've run it. It was fine. And just because I have my own stuff doesn't mean I'm going to diss other people's systems. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. It's well put together, and there's some smart stuff in there. There's some useful tables too.
Yeah. The other thing too is I've had this theory for a while that let's totally ignore 2024 5e. Let's just say 2014. If you consider most people start playing D&D when they're teenagers. So let's say you were 14, 10, 11 years ago when, 5e 2014 came out. 10 years later, you're probably, now that you're in your 20s, if you're still playing, you're probably looking for something that's a little bit more mature, something a little edgier, a little grittier, darker. So it makes a lot of sense to me that, for DMs who are tired of the not Spirit Totem. Oh, I forget what that's called. I forget the name. But the conga line to heal you, or the 3 death saving throws, and all that kind of stuff. It totally makes sense to me that they would want something that keeps the good parts of 5e, and there's a lot of good parts of it, but just really sort of hammers home a more mature feel to it.
Exactly. And when I did run Shadowdark, I ran it at a con, and it played really smooth. It played really fast. It was great for newbies who'd only experienced 5e before. I think that's kind of the strength of Shadowdark. So, Kelsey's done a really good job with that system for kind of what it's built for. Like I said, it's worth looking at. But I mean, if you have your own thing that you're happy with, I think that's
Mhm.
fine. You know, I
Yep.
think a lot of people are happy with their own. I mean, pray for me. My next deep dive system review is going to be Axe, which is going to
Uh,
be, that's going to be, I mean, I'm excited about it because I've used a lot of the subsystems in Axe. You know, I've used the domains at war mass battles. I've used a lot of the domain rules. I ran a playtest in high level with it, but I haven't done like a deep dive system review. And that thing is enormous. Like that thing is a block of what 1,000 something pages. So
mhm.
that's my next project to review as systems. But some people really, I mean, it's obviously, I mean, even from what I've started with, it's and for what I've used, it's incredibly like intelligently designed, like it's rigorously designed, and I can really respect that. So
Yeah. Um, so you have your novel that's sort of coming up. What else do you have coming up? You've got the
yeah,
novel. You've got this competition.
yeah. So we have that. Yeah. So I'm like I said, we have a few things in the fire. We're working on the fantasy trilogy first. Um, Also for the art press, the art prize, they wanted America like over the top, patriotic America, 2076. So I decided I was going to go all out and make you know, it's sort of sci-fi ish, but we were going to go with what if the conspiracy theory that CERN is opening portals to hell is actually true.
Oh,
So I'll give you the overview that I sent them because everybody has gone, heck yeah. It's the overview for that one is this is Oak Ridge. It's not only right for America to invade hell, it is America's manifest destiny to invade hell and kill all of its demons. Set in the battered but still unbowed post CME America of 2076, the paranormal sci fi thriller Oak Ridge tells the story of a desperate scientific bid to fan the embers of civilization back into flame, with Oak Ridge particle physicists ripping open portals to hell. The invasion is primarily seen through the point of view of young hunter John Blount, who fights back with 6.5 Creedmoor and a cool sniper's aim, along with perspectives of local librarian Olivia Wendell and the broken RNRL director Liam Rawlins. Our story goes from the invasion to defense to America counterattacking into hell itself, with militia and guard units from all around the country advancing behind a barrage of nuclear artillery. Anchored by the faith of the old shotgun-wielding Baptist preacher Colin Hayes, with rebel Bigfoot Booger at their side, the book ends in a climactic battle where Dr. Rollins seeks redemption by severing his ties to the Prince of the Host, while John Blount snipes the Prince of the Host with an M388 nuclear round direct fired from a Davy Crockett. So they were looking for about as over the top as it gets, and
nice.
that's the novel premise that we were going for. Like we're playing it completely sincere too. So I'm excited
Wow,
about that one.
that
That's
sounds awesome.
like I said, that's going in for the prize, and we're hopeful to get it because they're a new publisher, but they have a lot of funding. They're looking to publish stuff out, but if they don't publish it, then my other goal is to publish it ourselves, and we will definitely, you know, we'll have a lot of fun with that. That's a fun project.
Hmm.
And then this is kind of where I was going to pick your brain
Sure.
because I have recently finished. You know, I referenced my West Marches.
Hmm.
I have finished the local region, the Sky Shadow Isles, at a I call it a killer dungeon. A lot of people call it a mega dungeon because there's 800 and something keyed rooms, um, called the Cairn of Night. So we've finished up that region basically, and I publish a lot of adventures myself. But this one's going to be a scale like entirely unto itself. It's an entire region. It's entire. There are 184 hexes, all keyed, massive 500-mile archipelago.
Hmm.
There's
Sounds
going to
awesome.
be, yeah, and a huge mega dungeon that, like, it's basically like H.P. Lovecraft's The Mound mixed with the Book of Revelation as a mega dungeon. So this needs actual support if I'm going to get it out because this thing's huge. So I'm probably going to be launching a Kickstarter for that one, probably in the winter or in the spring. Because I really want to see how it can go. I really want a lot of people to see this. It's been something really special to play for it. You know, you talk about playing, you talk about playtesting. We've been playing in this area for 5 years, so it's definitely been playtested out the wazoo. So I'm excited to kind of push that as the next RPG side publication. So that's kind of where we are. So I was going to ask you, since you're also you're starting a Kickstarter campaign. How many Kickstarter campaigns have you done? Because I've seen you've done several. I don't know your quite number yet.
2. This is number 2, actually.
This is number 2. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're about to jump into it and you're about to hype it every day. But let me how do you start a Kickstarter? That's my question for you.
Okay. So we'll have to see how this one does. So I kickstarted the 5e version of Empire of the Undying Sun last year, and I made many mistakes being my first Kickstarter. Some of it was based on bad advice. Some of it was just based on bad happenstance, and some of it was just me screwing up. So the first thing is you really need to have a plan of what you're going to do. You need to figure out where and how you're going to advertise your product. And as much as it's like your work, your inner being is out there. No, it's a product. When you're trying to sell it to people, when you're trying to convince people to give you money in order for you to give it to them, it's a product. And so you have to identify where the people are. Now, everybody's got a different market. There's some people who go to cons and they sit there and they can sell a bunch of units of whatever it is that they're selling. I had started my YouTube channel years ago and it's still teeny tiny. So it was like, well, we'll go with that. So one was I called in markers for people I've had on throughout the years, and they've talked about their stuff on my channel. So some of them were nice enough to let me on theirs, and I got to describe Empire of the Undying Sun and talk to them. So in addition, I chose to do some advertising, online advertising, Facebook and Instagram. And I did this. So Rob Alderman of Gods of the Forbidden North, luckily I had him on my channel and I was able to pick his brain a little bit. And those Facebook and Instagram specifically were the places where his campaigns had a lot of success. Now I also tried to do Reddit and Twitter. Twitter would never take my credit card. And Reddit would never launch the ads. So would they have worked? Who knows? My biggest problem was I took advice from someone, not Rob, who told me oh yeah, you really only need to start letting people know, getting the word out 3 weeks before you launch your campaign. And I thought, now I used to work in marketing, but I dipped out right around the time when online marketing was becoming a thing. So I never really did it before. And I thought wow, that really doesn't sound like a lot of time. But I took their advice and it was wrong. And I talked to a couple of agencies that work in marketing for campaigns. And but I only did it maybe 5 weeks before I was going to launch. And they were all like, nah, it's too late. We can't do anything. So you definitely want to start launching ads, start talking about it, getting the information out. So my thing starts October 1, and this time I started at the end of July. So you need a good 2.5 months beforehand to start getting the word out. Try to get people to give you a little word of mouth. In my opinion, you need to have some sort of a preview of the work. If you have a little bit of money, commissioning some artwork is great. Especially like a cover, so people can visualize it. If maps are big, give you don't have to get the whole thing done. Just give people an idea of like, oh, when I back this thing, I will have this kind of a map to work with. And you want to be able to show like a little bit to the general public, but also if you are going to go on people's YouTube channels, or if people who review stuff by a blog, as much as you can, you want to give them like an indication, because you want to get them a little bit excited about what you're working on. So you got those two things. Let's see. I've had websites fail, but you want your own website, because you always want to have a central hub where people can go and find information. And then you want to connect anything you do on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, should all somehow connect back to that, so people can find out what's going on with your campaign. And then I think you need to figure out where you want to be in the tabletop space. Like some people are just happy releasing a game and maybe like 50 people will find it and back it. And for them, that's fine. And over a long enough time, you'll get several hundred people following your work. Or you can say like, no, I really need to make some money on this, so I need to spend a little bit more money in advertising and get the most eyes on my project as possible. So last year, the campaign was successful, but I only had something like 44 people. And due to various issues, a lot of people weren't able to back it. And some of it was like, in addition to the campaign guide, I also had 12 adventure modules, which are sort of semi-canonical, that you can take out and you can put in the adventure where you want them, if it fits with what your players are trying to do. Or you could just use them in some other campaign. They could be standalone or one-shots. But I had it where you could only get those if you bought a print version. Well, one thing I didn't realize is with shipping plus import fees, the book that I was selling for like $65 all of a sudden became like $140 for a bunch of people in Europe. So they're like, it looks cool, but it's not $140 cool. So that was totally my fault. So with Kickstarters, some of it you just have to learn by screwing up. And, so this year I fixed all those problems, got the word out early. I have things that are easier to buy piecemeal. So if anybody bought like the digital version of the campaign guide last time, they can just buy the adventure modules this time, or separately or together. There's all digital versions, so you don't have to worry about shipping or tax if you're, in a country that will punish you for trying to buy nice things. So all of that sort of goes together. If that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's just awesome to see kind of where the sausage gets made. Hey, and I'm directing some of you guys who are tuning into this because you're on my Osric servers. It's AD&D 1, right? Like it is AD&D 1E, yeah.
Yeah, we've got two versions. We've got a 5e version and an AD&D 1E. So
all you Osric guys, like check out this that's coming up tomorrow, because like Osric compatibility is a big deal for a lot of these guys. And
yeah,
Osric 3 just came out because the whole point of that is so you can run AD&D stuff, original 1E AD&D stuff with Osric 3. So I know a lot of you guys who are tuning into this are interested in more Osric content. Check out Yang's stuff.
Yeah, and I've got for anybody who's concerned about the conversion from 5e to 1e, I've got Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, working on it. For anyone who doesn't know him, you can check out his stream on I think he's YouTube at @Dungeon Delver on YouTube, and he's been running the same AD&D 1E game for 20 some years, and he used to write modules for Gary Gygax. So that's the guy I want converting my stuff. I from its inception, Empire of the Undying Sun was always meant to feel like an old school adventure. So it's not enough for me to just convert it. Like everything has to feel like you're playing AD&D and 1E, not like you're playing a Google Translate version of 5e. So there's things that have to get rewritten as opposed to just change some numbers around or something. And that is something I'm definitely willing to do for the fans of old school games.
Yeah, and that's really important. But again, that's because you started with a system. You knew the system assumptions. Because you have that, like, that you have that a set of system assumptions, then you can convert, and you know what system assumptions are being made. So when you're doing a conversion, you also can talk about other systems. A lot of my released modules are like that too. They have whatever their intended system is, but then they'll have conversions. But you have to realize it's not just stat blocks are different. It's not just about this little that little thing. You actually have to think through what are the differences, what are the different assumptions. D&D 5e, you're going to have a lot of XP that comes from killing monsters.
Yeah.
AD&D, you're going to have a lot of XP that comes from treasure. And it's more than just XP. It's also, that's the point of the game. So you're going to have a bunch of scum and villainy type people who are looking to steal treasure. They're not looking to kill these monsters. It's fun. But it's exciting to hear that you got that, you have a good proper conversion. Because that is, I guess, we'll go back a little bit to the adventure site. If you were playing in a 5e game, you can absolutely write an adventure site and convert it.
Yeah.
To old school like all those old school assumptions, but actually try to think about what the assumptions are. So, if you're playtesting in some things, there's going to be some things that translate, but try to think about what the assumptions you've been making are and what assumptions the different system is. And you'll actually find that it works pretty well. If you just have to, it just requires some thought. You can't just automatically assume that.
Yeah. And it's interesting. At the end of the book, I have, a small chapter like that recommends different ways to play the game. So it is written that if you let's just say you're real busy and you don't have any time to put things together, and you're not real confident in the zero prep type idea, and you like Dragonlance style play, the campaign guide is set out that there is a storyline that you can follow if you want to play it that way. It's thin, and that's where the adventure modules come in. You can add more depth to it with those. But it's there. However, if you're someone who likes total sandbox, got you covered. Every area has its own wandering monster tables. There are factions up the wazoo who all have their own goals. And the overarching throughput is a timeline. So since it's a horror campaign, one of the things that makes horror is your players are not in control. Your players are not like, I know Gary had said when you're a level 1 fighter, it's assumed that you had been campaigning before and you're a proficient guy. Not in this one. In this one, you're assumed just to be a schlub. In fact, the first job you're hired for, they're kind of like, well, for reasons we don't really have anyone good, so we'll take you. And being on the back foot is part of the horror trope. So we kind of play that up in this campaign, and we were going, so sandbox. So there's you could play it as a total sandbox game, but there are events which are outside of your player's control, which happens. And your players in some way will be forced to deal with this. And in the 5th chapter, an undead invasion goes to attack this town you're in. I don't care what you're doing. You could be on some other quest, following your own backstory. If all of a sudden, thousands of undead show up, you're going to have to drop whatever you're doing and figure that out.
Or not drop it and then have to deal with the fact that there's an undead apocalypse. That's all part of the fun. I like
Exactly.
that. Yeah, I that's awesome. That's really cool because that's how I run my sandboxes too. I don't have any plot, per
Hmm.
se. I like people. I mean, my goodness, my players have a kingdom that they've built that
Yep.
has, multiple. There's a king, a PC who is a king. There are multiple members of the ruling council. They have founded cities. They've done all that. But there has been bad guys that have their own plans, that have their own events, and because I run time wise, I run sync to the calendar for my
Hmm.
campaign. Um, there was a magical call that went out from the Cairn of Night that compelled people to go down there if they fail the will save, and if they didn't make that save versus spells, they started marching down there every single new moon. So my players still get twitchy. They finally overcame it last month, and they got twitchy just a few days ago. It was the new moon for September. They got twitchy about that because they realized, oh wait, is something going to happen? No, they fixed it. But I think that's the right way to run a sandbox: is let them have complete and utter agency, but also have other agents that are running around in the world doing their own thing. I think
Hmm.
that's the most interesting, fun way of doing a campaign. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. For me, like, you need, part of the problem is people are people, and a lot of people will be very passive and wait for something to happen. And that's fine. If they want to play a reactive campaign, you're not doing much until the zombies invade. Uh, you know, um, uh, the Thieves Guild, they steal your gold. Now you got to go get it back. That's fine. And if they want to be proactive and like, hey, I don't like this Thieves Guild here when we have all this gold. Okay, great. Go ahead and um, take them. Let's see. This is have either of you two had two opposing parallel groups in the same world at the same time? Have you?
Direct opposition, no, but every party is kind of so every party starts out from the same place or from one of their player controlled places. So there are definitely rival parties to say hey, we want to clear this first. We want to look out this first. There's all kinds of races that happen. There's some people that have allied and strengthened one side, and some people that have allied and strengthened another. So there's been absolutely groups who have their own set of goals, and they've been starting to fight each other. It's a lot of fun.
For Empire, if you're playing Chapter One as is sort of laid out, um, where you start depends on how you're aligned with the government. Because there's a bunch of groups that don't like the government that are, like sorry, I'm losing the word in English. Like they're criminal organizations or they're opposed to it. And then it set up the elves, basically the humans and some other species. They took over this land that was elven land, and elves aren't happy about it. There's been riots forever. So depending on where you are in that alignment, if you're against the government, in a bar, you're going to get recommended to some people who are looking to have a jewel heist. And we'll have those characters just start there, and they'll introduce themselves and tell us why they're awesome and everything, and then we'll switch to the other players who would be aligned with the government. So, like, if you are a wizard and you're registered, which is the only way to use your powers openly, you got to work for the government. There are religious factions that are aligned with the government, and you hear that there's a group planning a jewel heist, and and we think some of the town guard is in on it. So we need you guys who aren't connected with the guard to go scope the place out and see if you can stop it. And I say this in front of the other groups. So when I start doing this, the usually when you're like switching between scenes, people are like on their phone or whatever, and then they're like, "Wait, a jewel? They got it." A jewel. Wait, is this the one that we're going after? And then you start seeing those people talk to each other, and yeah, I let them, I let them PvP it out for the first fight, and it's sort of like how the group comes together. Now, if they somehow picked characters that were all with the government, okay, great. Then there's some other criminals doing that. If they're all against the government, great. They find some other schlubs to try to protect this gem, and then they're together that way. But I think some PvP is quite good. The only thing you want to avoid is murder hobos, killing the other players because that can be bad. Like camping out every time they come up with a new character, they get shanked. That's not so fun.
No, I really like. Again, it's just letting people be free, letting
Yeah.
your players make their own stories and letting them play their own ways. I mean, I tell them I mean, it is a team game, so a lot of the
Hmm.
stuff, work together. Try not to be a complete tool, but that's just social dynamic stuff. And I don't usually do that in game. You don't solve that kind of social dynamic problem by in game monkeying around. You just talk to them like fellow adults.
Yeah,
That's been my experience.
definitely. Quick question: how much of your content is the system, and how much is the world content? So the campaign guide is either for D&D 5e or AD&D 1e. Most of it is fairly standard, but I do have recommendations for, if you want an easy game, sort of a mid-level game, if you want like brutal game, different ways to change it based on that. And then I do have some additions like I have I never liked the astral plane. I always thought it was lame. It's just like another place you go, but with more clouds. So I changed it to a dream realm, where every night when people go to sleep, they enter the dream realm, not physically, of course. And then in the dream realm, like if you and your friend, like you're talking, you're like, oh my gosh, we had the same dream. It's because you were able to travel. One person traveled into the other's dream. So you're able to meet and talk with other people. Um, and we got some matrix, some tables to figure out how much of the dreams you remember when you wake. But traditionally throughout history, the way that gods and spirits would contact you is in your dreams. So in this world, when your gods want you to do something, they're going to contact you in your dreams and have you do it. And with the dreams comes nightmares. So if you manage to, there are creatures that live totally within the dream realm, and they might be attracted to you because you did something to anger them. It could be they're just plain evil, or it could be somebody in the waking world is seeking you out to torture you. So there are some hags that if you break a deal with them, they'll haunt your dreams, which in 5e is pretty bad because long rest is how you get hit points and your spells back. So if you're not able to get that long rest because you have nightmares, um, it's going to be a problem for you soon. But if players are wise enough, they can realize, especially once the party goes on the move, you can talk to people anywhere in the world via dreams. So if you need to keep in contact with people, you can do it there. And also, if you need to find out secret information that people don't want to tell you, you can try to enter their dreams and convince them to talk to you about it because they don't know they're dreaming. Um, so it's to me, it's a fun addition that I had one test group that was playing it Empire as a campaign, and they used it all the time for various things. And I have a second test group, and after not doing anything with it for like 9 months, someone asked me like, "Oh, are we ever going to go back to the dream room?" I'm like, "Man, you can go there anytime you want. That's up to you."
I love that. And yeah, that's why it's nice to have multiple players and multiple
Yeah.
parties because, I mean, sometimes they just don't get it. And that's fine. That's actually kind of an essential for anything you're designing like this. You need to have stuff if they're really going to be free. It needs to be stuff that they can also just drop and neglect and not actually use. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I it's like with factions. Like it's I think it's fine to have factions like come and go out of your story. If they deal with a thieves guild once, um, they don't ever have to deal with them again. They can say, we don't want to deal with these kind of people. They could be in different circles, or you could have them constantly like selling stuff for them, or they have to hunt them down. To me, that's the kind of thing that should be player driven. Maybe it's up to the DM to introduce some of these concepts and introduce some of these players, because otherwise maybe they don't. Sometimes when you have too many choices, you can't make a choice. So it's up to the DM to sort of like point them in a direction at the beginning, but then what they do with that should all be up to what the players want. In my
So
opinion.
I just got a private message from another watcher, another one of my players, who
Hmm.
reminds me in our sci-fi game, I actually do have another player who's directly opposed to them. I have my
Oh.
he was then 10-year-old, now 11-year-old son running. He is in charge of the rebel fleet. He's the admiral of the rebel fleet that's chasing them. So a precocious, um, completely devoted to the destruction of the players, 11-year-old is in charge of clever plots to take them down and to be treacherous and evil and chase them in every way. And that was a good reminder because, you want to talk about players who do things. I call him more of a patron, but that
Mhm.
is absolutely a case of a player who's actually there to be in opposition of another player because he is my son is very devious. He does things that I would not do as a GM. So I don't like to have a bunch of NPCs that are secret agents.
Mhm.
I don't do that as a general rule because that makes them mistrust every NPC that comes along, traders and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. I don't do that. My son, however, totally did. He came up with that fast. He quickly seeded a defector with a nice new shuttle. He had the man join their crew and start giving them information, and he had the plot for what all the sabotage would be. They managed to catch him, and they managed to space the traitor, but they were very nervous, and he could have sabotaged them in the middle of their jump. So he was very dangerous, and so that's a case of a player. Like I said, a precocious 11-year-old is the most nightmarish villain you'll ever have. So that is another good example right there that my players just reminded me of.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. One is, all the players have to be on the same page, which is everybody's there to have fun. That being said, I've got no problem with having players that have different agendas, right? Because sometimes those agendas are going to dovetail together and be great to work together, and other times they'll be separate. Like in Empire, the overarching theme is maybe 100,000 years ago, the gods fought some evil force from beyond the stars, and they were able to repel them, but they gave up most of their power in order to create a barrier that protects the world from this power. So some people would like to see that barrier come down. Certainly, those evil beings from beyond the stars, and some of the gods think they'll get their powers back, and some of the gods aren't happy where they ended up. And but then there's other ones who are like, no, that was horrific. We don't want them coming back. It's too dangerous. Plus, we don't know how the other areas that are walled off have developed. So, near the end of the game, players have to make a decision. There was a breach, and the barrier's starting to crumble. They have a chance, and their choice is, okay, do we wreck it all, or do we put it back together? And it's set to be sort of morally ambiguous in the sense that there are arguments of why you would want to tear it down, and there's arguments of why you'd want to keep it up. And somehow the players are going to have to make that decision as to what they want to do in the in the end. And they might start at like completely opposite ends of that argument, but somehow through the play and I guess the power of friendship, they need to they need to figure out how to make that work. And to me, um, you conflict is what makes great stories. But conflict doesn't always mean combat. It doesn't always mean fighting. It's, you can have these opposing views and somebody's got to win somebody else over. And it's not going to come down to like somebody rolled an 18 charisma versus like a 16 charisma. It's you're actually going to have to convince the other people, and maybe you have to make some argument like, okay, look, it'll come down, but I guarantee my people will protect yours. Or, something like that, or we'll give you something of value, or, I don't know. That's all for players to figure out.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun of the game. And that, again, that makes the stories more interesting. I don't have quite the mania that the BroSR guys like Dunder have for, direct PvP, but I
Yeah.
mean, hey, if everybody's on the same page, that's also a very valid way to play.
Yeah.
If everybody's on the same page for that, then why not? But my groups tend to be a little more harmonious. They did get really angry at the one guy, even though they'd been daring it. The one guy who buried a ancient city in a volcano. He said, I thought that the glowing door was just glowing and hot because of defenses. I didn't realize there was a magma bloom behind it.
Oops.
So, yeah, oops. So, sometimes people will blame each other, but they were all egging him on to touch the door, so it's all their fault, really. Ideally, every PC death can be pointed to a PC action.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when a PC dies, there's a moment of stopping and saying, "Uh-oh, okay, so in retrospect, that was our fault." That's often the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it all works. Like, and even as a DM, sometimes, yeah, you sure you're gonna, okay, all right. If they miss the cues and the obvious logic, that's on them.
No, it's fun. So yeah, I enjoy that. I enjoy that compatibility. Thanks. I realize we just went way off of your question of like future projects, but I thought that was an interesting diversion, and I like hearing where you're going on that too. The Empire of the Dying Sun sounds glad, and I'm glad you're putting some AD&D on there as well.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, my first goal was I want to design something that I would really like playing in. And then goal number 2 was, the stuff I would want to play is like a lot of the kind of campaigns old timers are talking about. So, my first objective when it was just the 5e thing was like, well, how do I bring a lot of that into the 5e system? A lot of people were saying it's not possible, which I don't agree with that. And same thing with horror. A lot of people say, "Oh no, you can't have horror in Dungeons and Dragons." Like, yeah, I think you can. I think you can. There's plenty of opportunity for it.
Well, you can tell anything and anything. Part of the question is how much is the system going to fight you for it, and how much effort is it going to be to just kind of run it.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think
that's
a
going to be
lot of
part of
it's
it.
just the setup.
Mhm.
Like if you look at something that's renowned for being good for horror, like Call of Cthulhu, right? A lot of people would say like it's the mental mechanic. Well, what is the sanity mechanic doing? It's creating pressure on your characters to get things done quickly, to act in certain ways, and you can accomplish that in other ways. I've got something I call the pressure mechanic, which is like I mentioned, you can only so there's a group called the Zealots of Twilight that if you're using magic and you are not a licensed magic user, arcane magic, they will come and they will murder you for it. And they will probably murder your family just in case they can do it too. And maybe they'll do your neighbors as well just to be safe. Um, so if you're out in the wilderness, right, you could be shooting off firebolts all day long. Who's going to know? But they're able to detect that. So there's a system where the more the players are doing this kind of thing, they accrue like points. And once you get to a certain point, the DM, when it's time to roll for a random encounter, they can have an encounter that's balanced to be extremely deadly of these guys. And there's a group of Elvis cultists. Well, if you were doing things that are against the general interest of elves or not seen as being sufficiently pro elf, by your actions, they'll start counting up and then they'll come after you too. So the world can provoke you by your own actions, which to me is a good, well, I don't know if I'd say a good substitute. It's a sufficient substitute that works very well with D&D, not violating any of the rules, and you don't have to copy Sandy Peterson's sanity mechanic to make horror work.
No, that's a good way of doing it. Yeah, I've only ever run horror for one shots. I use Dread for my horror one shots.
Oh,
So
Dread's amazing.
because I love that physical Jenga table as a artifact. That's my go-to con game. I love that because everybody gets
Well,
so tense when they're looking at it.
yeah, exactly. And that's what a good horror game should do, is it needs to have something that brings in physical/mental tension. And the Jenga tower is perfect because everybody knows how to play it, right? And when you're pulling out that first block or two, no big deal. There's no tension there. But once you get a few rows up, then people start sweating it out, trying to see if their character is going to live. And through other means, through story means, through different mechanics, you could absolutely do that with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. So I've used so when I do want it to be tense, I've used I don't know if you know who the Angry GM is. He's been a blogger for a long time.
Yeah.
He had something called a tension pool, where so he normally just rolls for random encounters once an hour, and a 1 on the die is a d6, and a 1 on a die is an encounter. All he does is he adds, if his players are doing anything loud or noisy or foolish, he has a bowl, like a nice loud clattery bowl in the middle of the table. He'll add extra d6s. So every time they do something noisy, he adds another d6.
Yeah.
And so you have that nice physical like clank as the bowl, a die goes into the bowl, and they know it's not a certain thing, but that's another chance. Every one of those, because you roll all those d6s together when it's time for the random encounter. So you just have a nice physical artifact for, oh no, we've been really noisy, we've been really loud. There are now 4 of these in here. So when the random encounter comes, it's really likely that we're going to get something. I really like that mechanic. That's a good example for that too.
Yeah, exactly. Something visceral, something that they can see. Weirdos? What? No way, Wave. That's excellent. Any good DM knows their player should be scared. Perpetually scared.
Yeah, and it's an important part of the whole social contract that you pretend that you want to kill them. Even though most of us don't want to. Dark secret, maybe we shouldn't let anybody know. But we want our friends to succeed. But you want to play that it's you're against them. That's why it's so terrifying to have my 11-year-old chasing down the players, because he genuinely wants to kill them. He genuinely wants them to die and to fail. So that has been an extra terror. So whatever causes that extra bit of tension has always been helpful.
Absolutely. So we are coming up on 2 hours. Is there... yes, Wave, they must feel the terror. Is there anything else people should know? Any other place that they should go to find you?
I'm fairly active on Twitter. We have a shared account. I'm the reason why you'll see me in most interviews is I'm the extrovert half of Karen and I. So the B of the BK is going to be the extrovert who usually does most of the talking. But as we say on our Twitter, it's a joint account. So if you disagree with what's being posted, rest assured that the other one of us agrees with you completely. But you'll find us on there. Like I said, I love to see people just submit to the Adventure Site contest. Again, you don't have to do something big. You don't have to make something artistic, but just try out there and play. Again, that's going to be the call to action for any time I'm here. I want to see people play more. So make another Adventure Site, try to come up with something fun, and play with your friends. That's kind of that's how I kind of always end it for the Adventure Site stuff.
So for anyone who is interested in, you you wanted to become a DM, you thought like, hey, maybe I would like to publish um, some modules, whether it's for just for funsies or for some money or for the girls. Um, Adventure Site Contest is a good way to start and sort of cut your teeth, which you can find on Cold Light Press. .weebly.com.
Yeah, and I think you'll put it in the show notes too.
Yes.
But yeah, so we have that in my Twitter. Those are kind of the way to reach out. And if you have any questions, I'm very easy to access. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Yep, and you guys have until the end of the year to figure out how exactly you will terrify a group of players in your own how would you call it? Sorry, not module, but adventure.
Yeah, adventure site is what I call them.
Adventure site.
You can call it just a dungeon or an adventure. It's again something we're looking for, something that's kind of a session.
Mhm.
So definitely, it's easy to play test. Just run it. It's always a great opportunity.
Excellent. Ben, thanks for coming. For anyone looking for me tomorrow night, I will be somewhere with Chubby Funster talking about Empire of the Undying Sun. I don't know exactly where. Wednesday at 4, if you're bored, check back on this channel. I will be doing some kind of a live stream for the launch of Empire on Kickstarter. And Thursday, Von Klaus talking about writing horror for comics.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciated the conversation. It was a really good one.
Thanks for coming.